Now it's recording. Okay, so we are making meringues today. Things that you need: a bowl, pretty large, metal bowl, super clean, no residual oil, grease, anything like that, which will impede the ability for the egg whites to foam. You need a whisk. You'll need a sheet pan, ideally with like parchment or silk hat, but if you have like just spray, you can just grease it up a little bit. You'll need 2 spoons, or 1 spoon is fine too. I'll explain why for later. And then you need your ingredients. So again, we have sugar, we have salt, cream of tartar, vanilla, eggs, measuring spoons. Who typed into the chat? Didn't I say not to type in the chat because I can't see it, because I have to go all the way over here to read it? Okay. Okay, but it wasn't anything important, so I guess it's okay. All right, so first thing first, we got crack an egg. This is my scrap bowl. So there are 2 ways to separate out an egg. The first way is to pass it back and forth between the shells. This can take a little bit of finesse, and you can risk puncturing the yolk, right? Because the egg shell is sharp, and so it can puncture the yolk easier, especially if you're not used to it. The other way is to crack it, let the egg go into your hand, and give it a nice little jiggle, jiggle, jiggle to separate it out. I will show both, okay? So first one, look, big crack. Like hit your egg pretty hard. Not so hard that it cracks onto the table, right? But like you want a firm crack, and then open it up and let that white just fall down, and gently pass the egg back and forth between the shells, making sure not to pop the yolk and getting as much white as you can. So this can be precarious, right? Because the shell's sharp, and so it can poke the yolk. And you know, if you're making something like a scrambled egg, ain't no thing, like whatever. But if you're making egg whites, and you're whipping them, that a little bit of yolk in there is gonna because yolk is mostly fat, it's gonna ruin the ability for the egg whites to foam. Okay, second way, give your egg a crack, open up the shell, you can ditch one, and then let that egg just kind of fall between your hand. It's a lot easier. People just get grossed out. I don't know why. It's just an egg. It's unfertilized, but you know, this would be a cute little baby chicken embryo. It's about an egg yolk from a large egg is about a perfect tablespoon too, if you were to measure it. So that's just a really easy way to separate egg yolks. If you want, save your egg yolks, right? Try not to waste. A lot of times if I'm doing something like this, I'll save the egg yolks and make something with it, or I'll just like scramble them up and give them to my dog for dinner. She loves them. So, you know, waste out, whatnot. I'm gonna go wash my hands. So anytime you touch raw eggs or something, you should wash your hands. All right. Oh, the swivel's dying. I understand why it's upset. Okay, so you should have just 2 egg whites in here. Right, easy, easy. What we're going to do now is start to incorporate some air. So I'm going to show you the whisking technique that you want to utilize. It involves an overhand grip, knuckles to the sky. You have more strength running through your arm that way, but you are going to get tired, and you're going to switch to an underhand grip, which is just like awkward and not as efficient. You're going to switch to the other hand because right now you're thinking, oh, this is easy. Just wait. So when you're whisking, nice up, down, in a round motion. So you want to force air into it. What everybody does wrong is they do this. They stir. This doesn't do diddly squat for incorporating air. This is how you scramble eggs. This is not how you whip egg whites, okay? The other thing people do is this, back and forth. Nah, that's not gonna work either. You have to use this like up, down, and around motion to get air into your eggs, okay? On your lab sheet, it says to count how long until peaks form. Don't worry about that. And fluffy whites, yes. Once you get to these nice fluffy whites, that's when you want to add the salt and the cream of tartar. So it's 1/8 of a teaspoon. It's a super tiny amount. 1/8 of a teaspoon isn't a standard measuring spoon size, so you just use 1/2 of a quarter of a teaspoon and sprinkle it in. Don't just like dump it right on in there. Give it a nice sprinkle. The cream of tartar, you know, use some height so that it disperses better. Salt Bay, right? There's like a reason that he's doing that, so that it gets more evenly distributed. Okay, and then mix that in. So salt is going to enhance the sweetness and actually add a lot of flavor. So a lot of people are like, why would you add salt to a baked good? Well, it enhances sweetness. It brings out the sugar, it brings out the flavor. Things with salt taste better, right? And cream of tartar is acidic and it functions as a stabilizer. So it's going to stabilize and add some support to your meringue so that it doesn't collapse as easily. All right, so we have some pretty nice foam going right here. Can you see? Oh, whoops, my bad. Luckily I sanitized my table because I want that. Oh no, you guys. That's what happens when I'm trying to look at the screen to make sure you can see and tilting my bowl to the side. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, well, practice makes perfect. Right. We've only done video lessons so much. Okay, now I'm definitely going to use less sugar because I'm not going to make nearly as many, right? So I have pretty good foam forming right now. I'm actually going to start adding in the egg whites, I mean the sugar, now, right? So right now my protein's actually, the protein in the egg whites is denatured. It's not coagulated though, it's just denatured. So those protein knots, they're all folded, right? What I've done is I've agitated them. I've used a mechanical force to start to unfold them. And they're unfolding, but the bonds haven't broken yet. And so once they coagulate, that's where the bonds are gonna break and then reattach to form clots, and that sets it. So right now, if I left this, it could actually start to seep and kind of like re-nature, if you will. Okay, I'm gonna start to add this about a tablespoon at a time. It's kind of awkward because I'm one person, right? A good trick actually to keep your bowl from rolling everywhere or from sliding everywhere is to put a towel, like a damp towel underneath it, kind of like nestle it in there. a measuring, that's fine. I'm doing about a tablespoon at a time. You can just do this. Just a little bit at a time. And again, if you picked up ingredients from me, don't use the whole amount of sugar. So again, up, down, and around. This is how I messed up before, spilling it on the ground. But really forcing that air in there. Nice and fluffy, right? Look at that. It's amazing. All because of protein and eggs. Okay. Looking pretty good. It's got some volume. It's starting to get pretty thick. Like, look at that, you know. Nice and perky. Really getting those peaks. Firm peaks are where you lift it up and it pretty much holds its shape and then it falls over right at the top. A stiff peak is where it goes like a mountain peak like this, and a soft peak is it goes with the sound effects, obviously. You're not doing it right if it doesn't have good sound effects. Okay, so that's my sugar. I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna whisk a little bit longer. Whew. Just a little bit more volume. So if you're using an electric mixer, this would be like so easy, right? It would happen quite quickly. I also, with hand, this is another point. When I'm doing this by hand, I add the sugar a little bit later than if I'm doing it with the machine because it's really hard to physically incorporate so much volume. So I kind of start with a little bit more volume than I would if I was using a machine. But it's looking pretty good. Now you could leave it like this. I'm gonna add vanilla because I like the way vanilla tastes. It adds a good amount of flavor. There, so like nice and thick and sticky, right? So let's just stir in a little bit of vanilla. Now that's imitation vanilla flavor. That's what I use mostly at school unless it's like for an actual catering event or something, because a bottle that size of pure vanilla extract is like $75. So I don't know the school budget. All right, so that's what we have. Is anybody doing this at home? How are you guys doing? It should be nice and shiny and glossy. You could see some sugar granules maybe if it looks hard, but it shouldn't be like super gritty. Okay, so what we do now is you just scoop it onto a cookie sheet. And then we bake it low and slow, right? You don't want to brown the cookies. They should be nice and white at the end, but they should be all the way baked. And so the way you do that is a nice low temperature for a while. So let me grab my cookie sheet real quick. This is a Silpat. It's like a non-stick sheet. You don't have to use one of those. If you had parchment paper, you could use that, or you could just put a little bit of grease on here. Fat won't matter now that it's whipped. So really lightly those spray if you have spray. Otherwise use something like this, okay? So what I do is I take 2 spoons and I take the 2 spoons and I use them to create like nice little cookies, like little balls. I kind of swirl it on the top as I'm placing it on the cookie sheet to give it a pretty design. So they're not going to melt like, they won't melt like normal cookies, right? They're not gonna spread. So whatever they look like on the sheet is how they're going to bake. So if you just blob them on there, that's what they'll look like when they come out. And they just won't be as pretty. They'll taste fine. I mean, it's freaking sugar and vanilla, right? It's like eating pure vanilla sugar. I always feel like this would be so good on like coffee. Just like meringue on my coffee. Or meringue on my hot chocolate. Maybe that's better. It's like a marshmallow, pretty much. Just without the gelatin and granulated sugar instead of powdered sugar. So I'm making just little swirlies in my design. There's a popular dish called a pavlova, where you basically take one of these, and you pop it on your baking sheet, and then you can actually just kind of make a little like bird's nest looking thing with your spoon, and kind of thin it out, spread it out so that it's like, it looks like a little nest. And then for a pavlova, usually they're big, like a big, lots of meringue, and then you fill it with like whipped cream, pastry cream, and like lots of fruit. Super delicious, very sweet, but definitely a treat. But this, like this little one, this would be so cute for like an individual little pavlova with some like little whipped cream and some fruit on there. The other thing you can do is use this for like if you were gonna bake a meringue pie in the oven. But these guys are really cute. They make excellent snowmen over the holidays. You can make like the bottoms a little bit bigger and then make small ones for the top, and then you can just stack them and like put little dots. The others, so little like meringue snowman cookies. You also, you could make like a little heart shape. Give it to your boyfriend or girlfriend. Impress them, Be like, look, I made you this. You can also, a traditional way would be to put these into a piping bag and like pipe them with like a cute star tip so they have like shape. I don't feel the need to do that because I'm just doing this for you guys right now. So I'm just showing you how easy it is to make them look cute with just spoons. If you have a piping bag at home with a star tip, you could put this in there and pipe them out. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. Forget about it. Okay. Perfect. Little meringue cookies. Look at those. So I'm going to pop them in the oven for, in a typical oven, it would probably take, they'd probably take 20-25 minutes, okay? My oven, it's ridiculous fast because it has such an intense oven fan for the convection oven that I bet it will take, I'm gonna set the timer for 10 minutes and I'm gonna check them then. You wanna make sure they're cooked all the way through. They should be like have a crunch but then melt in your mouth, okay? So they're my little meringue cookies. You guys see that okay? Sorry, I know you're kind of far away, but look at those little beauties. And they look, they have a little bit of texture and everything considering I didn't pipe them, right? So you don't have to pipe, you can make them look nice. And like this little tart shell one, you could even like just flatten it. Some people like just like flatter meringue cookies. I don't know, up to you, what you really want to do. You could put chocolate chips in them. Ooh yeah, I should have put chocolate chips in mine. But yeah, you can put chocolate chips, you could put nuts in there. You could probably put like sprinkles in there. You could also use, instead of vanilla, you could use like peppermint and dye them pink for the holidays or something, right? Like lots of options to make a very creative thing. Okay, so I'm gonna put these in the oven, set the timer, and then I'm gonna come back for questions.